John Martin is an Australian assistant director based in Sydney who has been working in the Australian film industry for over 20 years. He has worked on films such as Strictly Ballroom, Muriel's Wedding, Garage Days and Nims Island. We visited him in his Sydney office to talk to him about the current state of the industry, what sort of films get funding, what Australian audiences want, and the benefits of working in a smaller film industry. The Australian film industry has always had a fluctuation of success. It's gone from being one of the most thriving industries at the beginning of the 20th century and the first industry to ever make a feature film, to in 2010 contributing only to 3.9% of the Australian box office. Why do Australians not want to see Australian cinema?
For me personally, I think it's a bigger question of the type of films that people want to go out and see. Lots of people will stay inside and watch small Australian films, but people to go out to the cinema, they really these days are looking for a bigger experience than the budgets will allow Australian filmmakers to make. And so, you know, they really want to see a 3D film, a big budget film, a film set in a foreign country. You know, they're much happier watching Australian films on their television.
So what are Australians typically looking for in a film?
That's what everyone's always trying to work out, what Australians want to see, and how some people seem to have got that right. Last year with Red Dog, they made something that a lot of Australians wanted to see and went and saw, whereas a lot of people in the film industry were fairly critical of it, you know. So I think there is a divide there that everyone's still trying to work out.
Australian film producer Prue Donovan cites the key problems within the industry to be based around funding. The challenge is finding the balance between the culturally viable and the commercially successful. So within the industry, what type of films do get funded?
Funding-wise, hopefully projects that are telling an important Australian story still get funding, but in the end, I think a lot of that, you know, funding depends on what are the actors attached to it and whether they can make those international sales. So it needs to usually have attached to it an actor that we all know and people overseas know, and that's a very small group of actors, unfortunately.
With the gap between Australian film budgets and American film budgets being literally hundreds of millions of dollars, what are the benefits of working in a smaller industry?
Because the Australian industry isn't so big, when you do work on an Australian film, everyone's there for the right reasons and they're trying to make the best possible end product that they possibly can in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of money. But from that comes some great creativity, and that is where some of the best Australian films have come from. The best Australian films I've worked on are usually with directors that are making their first or their second film. They're really passionate and really prepared, and that shows through.
What are some of the films and other things that you've worked on?
Well, of those good ones, you know, Muriel's Wedding was a really good film that was a director, you know, still trying to work out the best way to tell a story. And same with Two Hands, which I worked on as well, was again a young director who was really organised and trying to inject a new voice, and he did in the end. And more recently, same again, another first-time director. She'd only made short films, I think, and a few TV things before. Kate Shortland on Somersault, you know, made a really good film in a really short amount of time with a very little money.